Originally announced in 2017, Skull and Bones has been subject to an alarming amount of development issues over the years, ranging from the minute to the utterly game-changing. Over the past 5 years, these issues have played an integral role in altering the game's overall identity, which has lasted right up to its current near-finished state. That's why it's so important to talk about the development history of Skull and Bones. We will every major event that is known publicly, from the moment development started in 2013 to now, where we're just a few months away from the release. But before we do get into the video, if you enjoy the content from me and want to see more Skull and Bones content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I upload multiple times per week, and with the upcoming release, you don't want to miss a single video. Skull and Bones was first introduced by Ubisoft at E3 2017, but our story starts back in 2013 when development started. Skull and Bones was initially intended to be an expansion of the well-received Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which also had a core focus on piracy and sailing. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag was the 6th major installment in the Assassin's Creed series. The game is set primarily on and around the islands in the Caribbean Sea during the golden age of piracy in the early 18th century, with the 3 major cities consisting of Havana, Nassau, and Kingston. The problem with the Sea Black Flag is about 60% of the game takes place on land. Players wanted a game set on the open sea. That's where Skull and Bones comes in. At this stage, the title was being developed as an MMO under the name of Black Flag Infinite. Not to be confused with the upcoming live service game Assassin's Creed Infinity. There was clear and simple objectives at the beginning. Recreate Black Flag but provide online features. It was meant to be a quick and easy expansion, and yet, even at this early stage, supposedly no one knew what they were doing. It's said that Skull and Bones lacked any form of stability. Managers were constantly brought on who would redesign the game from the ground up, only to be replaced by a new manager who would do the same thing. And if we were to sum up the whole development cycle, this really is all you need to know. This process left some of the team feeling demotivated and burnt out. The issues surrounding development apparently got so bad that the team became more and more junior because all the talent and all the experience would leave constantly. This is where the next problem arises. Due to the drawn-out level of this early development, the Black Flag technology that the game was set to feature quickly became outdated, marking the beginning of what would be a very tumultuous development cycle for what became Skull and Bones. This was also the same time when a big question was raised by developers. Do you play as a pirate or do you play as a boat? It's a simple question, but it's not a simple answer. On one hand, you play a pirate. There should be an emphasis on pirate customization, sword combat, and exploration of islands. But on the other hand, if there's more focus on the pirate ship, the emphasis should be on naval combat, ship customization, and open sea exploration. Selecting one doesn't mean the other won't be incorporated, it just decides where the majority of Ubisoft resources will be dedicated, and the team couldn't decide. This wouldn't be as much of a problem, but at this point, we're in 2015 and there were roughly 100 people working on Skull and Bones at the time. Different development teams were brought in at different times, under different management with a different vision. This made that very simple question so hard to answer. The struggles of development continued all the way through to 2017. 2017 was the first year the public heard about Skull and Bones and was set for a late 2018 release date, with Ubisoft promising a continuous playtesting system to allow players to voice their opinions on the game's direction. Following this, players heard nothing. Ubisoft went silent. This is when the game received its first delay. The original date was sometime in 2018 but was pushed back to 2019. It didn't help that Sea of Thieves, which was Skull and Bones' direct competitor, was released in 2018 and it was a commercially successful release. It felt empty at the start, especially with the original price tag of $60, but they had a vision. By 2019, there were around 400 employees working on Skull and Bones, but this didn't help. This marked a serious decline in direct news coming from Ubisoft in relation to the title, with several subsequent delays being announced with no tangible updates as to what state the game was in. Ubisoft Singapore was now facing the same issue but for a second time. Just like the outdated Black Flag technology at the beginning, core elements of the game had to be redeveloped from the ground up after they also became outdated. When Skull and Bones was announced in 2017, it was only confirmed to release on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. The idea was they would release on previous generations so that they could later resell on next-gen consoles. The new release date would hurt their sales unless they also included next-gen. It was back to the drawing board for the Ubisoft team as they go back through updating everything they've done previously so they can release the game at the highest possible standard. And then 2020 hit. 2020, a year I'm sure we're all familiar with, but Ubisoft had other problems. This was the year working conditions were exposed. Current and ex-employees came forward to complain of a toxic work environment, a culture of fear, and uncompetitive salaries. These complaints were just scratching the surface. Other complaints crossed over to allegations of misconduct, including crunch culture, sexual harassment, and toxic behavior at the workplace. It was so serious that there's been a 2-year investigation that only just ended in January 2022. This investigation resulted in further staff members being laid off, including management. Of course, they 100% deserved to be let go, but for the story of Skull and Bones development, it meant that new management would come in with a completely new vision for the game, which takes us all the way back to where development began. Today, Skull and Bone trailers and gameplay footage is unrecognizable. The gameplay shown back in 2017 is nothing like what is advertised today. The game will be released on the 8th of November 2022 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Stadia, Epic Games, and Ubisoft Connect. As for gameplay features we can now expect from the game, we got a glimpse at the advancement system, character and ship customization and crafting, as well as combat and unique weaponry. Additionally, Ubisoft discussed the many ship types in the game and how you might become well known in the world of pirates, each with distinct advantages and disadvantages. Cargo ships, navigation ships, and firepower ships were the 3 categories that Ubisoft confirmed at the Ubisoft Forward. Cargo ships. The large holds of cargo ships, which are bigger and slower than the different types of cover ships, allow you to carry much more loot than any other ship type. If you take a cargo ship into battle, you won't have to leave any loot behind, despite the fact that they might not be as effective in a fight as the firepower ships or as quick as the navigation ships. Navigation ships. The navigation ships are the quickest and most agile sort of ship, despite not having much armor or hardpoints where you may attach lines of guns. In addition to being useful for reconnaissance, a skilled captain will be able to dodge enemy fire and stay in front of their guns during combat. This ship type is best employed if you have a companion who can assist you in picking up the loot after combat, because they also have a tiny hold. Firepower ships. This is going to be the ship type for you if you wish to engage in combat. The firepower ship can carry the most weapons and control the battlefield, even if it may not be as quick or agile as a navigation ship, have the armor or hold of a cargo ship, or be as fast or maneuverable as a firepower ship. Apparently, Skull and Bones cost Ubisoft upwards of $120 million, and the only reason why it's being pushed this year is that they made a deal with the government of Singapore, where they're providing generous subsidies. The conditions of these subsidies include hiring people at the Ubisoft Singapore studio, and the studio releasing original IPs over the next few years. This is the story of Skull and Bones development. We're close to the end, but for a lot of people, it's not enough. It certainly feels like Ubisoft is just releasing the game just so it's done. But with all of this, time will tell. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more from me, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload.